the expression as soon as. So when I hear myself think that or say that, okay, well, then I'm not being present.
Right.
So as soon as I sell my business, as soon as I land this account, it's like, well, then I'm putting out to the universe that I'm not there. So to put it out that I am right now, right here, I am successful. And if it matters most, I take action on those things or be those things today, not waiting for something outside of me to happen.
Mm-hmm. If then, you get rid of
Right.
the if then mindset.
Exactly. Right.
Live in the now instead of the if then.
Yep.
Welcome to Under the Knife, the podcast where we cut into topics such as politics, life advice, and medicine, and we do this with the precision of a licensed orthopedic surgeon. I'm your host, Dr. Craig Green, an orthopedic surgeon and elected public official. Hello, welcome to Under the Knife with myself, Dr. Craig Green. We dissect life, politics, philosophy. Today we're talking about vision with Coach Bob. Coach Bob, thanks for joining us. First of all, tell us a little bit about Coach Bob.
Honored to be here. Thank you, Doctor. I'm just a kid at heart who loves to have fun. I can inspire. I can sell stuff. And so my whole life, I pretty much had fun and inspired and sold stuff and was going through life and had a pretty darn good life. And pretty much achieved everything that I thought I wanted. And 25 years ago, as I walked into my dream house and had all the things I wanted, there was an immense amount of sadness. And I said, okay, is this really everything? And so that was kind of my journey where I started to say, there's got to be more to life than the material things and what I thought was success. And so that's when I embarked on a journey and tapped into spirituality and really living life. And a lot of that was due to meeting my wife, who, when she met me, she said, okay, you're rushing, you're running. And I said, well, you don't understand it. You got to be successful and you got to keep moving. And she's like, well, what about just being? And so as we developed a relationship and we moved to Boulder, Colorado, and I'd sold my business, and we started to really tap into the magic of the universe and the magic of each other and the magic of ourselves and magic of God and things greater than ourselves. And it was magical, and that was amazing. And then we had a beautiful daughter 22 years ago next week, and then started to start another business. And then I got into some of the same old ruts and routines and fears and angers and frustrations. And so it took several years to kind of take a deep breath and say, okay, hold on, what happened to that magic back in Boulder? Because we moved back here to Detroit, Michigan. And then we tapped back into the things that we learned and that we were being when we first got together. And so our passion, my wife and I, is personal relationships, relationships with each other, relationship growth, spiritual growth. And so as we were going through different trials and tribulations, I have fun, I inspire, and I can sell stuff. And so I started to coach other entrepreneurs, visionaries. And as I was teaching it, it's like, okay, it'd be kind of cool to learn and be some of this stuff. And so a couple of years ago, we said enough's enough, and we put it into the writing, and we've got a coaching program. And really, at the end of the day, I am now starting to live what I've been teaching. So long-winded, just loving life, and thought once I made it, it's like that was it, but that's not it. It's a journey. So
turns out the journey was more fulfilling than the destination, sounds like. Exactly.
And even just another quick side note is I had a stroke 2 years ago, which was interesting, but I came out of it pretty quickly. And as I was in the ambulance, I hadn't really reached out to God for a conversation in the past, but I said, is this it? And I got a resounding no. And I was like, all right, yes.
Thank you.
And then I said, is it because I have so much to teach? And I got a no. And I'm like, okay, well, why am I still here? And it's because I have so much to learn. And it was not only teaching, but it was being what I was teaching. Right. And that's when we just said, okay, enough's enough. And so even with still either an anger, fear, or frustration that comes up, to embrace it with confidence and faith and action and just being in the moment has been amazing. And so if I go down the path of fear, life is not fun. No. And so to be present, it's okay to accept those emotions. In my family, I grew up, you can't be sad because you have a great life, and why are you angry? Everything's wonderful. So it's been a great journey.
Well, and that can be a generational curse that needs to be broken. in order to be able to know that sadness is normal and how to express it in a non-detrimental way, because it's inevitable. And those of us that don't realize that, sometimes we try to pretend we don't have those episodes of sadness that they're ubiquitous across the globe. And it's not always circumstantial. You're right. You can have all of the things in life. Let's talk about that. You mentioned the magic. Can you unpack magic, and how did you? I know that's a metaphor, but magic. What I hear you saying is probably for a self-realization of things that are important, maybe universal, faith, life, everything. And it's interesting how that came after you realized success did not fill the void.
Right.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. As a kid, I thought that life was magical. And even on my vision board that I had created years ago, it's kind of a cartoon going through my life. And this artist is really a therapist. And at the beginning, he said that, and it showed a little boy pulling down Santa's beard. And it was me realizing the adult lies. And so whether it be a teacher or a coach or a parent to say something and then it was something else, or someone was mean to each other. And I think that's when I kind of, without knowing it consciously, kind of, not that I knew what God was or who God was, but I kind of was like, okay, I'm kind of on my own. And then I went through again, to make money and ring the bell. You need 10 million in the bank before you're successful. And so even when I was teaching my kids and reading to them, they were probably 7 and 4, and I was reading a spiritual book, and my 4 or 5-year-old Nick said, well, I think I know what it is, Daddy. And I said, what's that? And he said, love is magic and magic is God. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty profound. Yeah. And then being the 4-year-old, he said, but I have a question. I said, what's that? He said, can God hear us fart? I said, okay, that's pretty cool. And so that helps me to explain what magic is to me. It is the wonder, the curiosity. I don't know if it's synchronicity or not, but I call it that. And of course, my daughter is like, well, that's God, Dad. Yeah. And it's like, so I have a fair amount of dogma about either God or religion and things from the past. And so I kind of shove that down. And so to me, I call it magic, and that's easier for me to understand. And that's the magic of you and I talking right now and having a real conversation and presence, and not being too worried about the future or regretting the past. Right. We talk about at iMatter, imagine this great future. So I'm hopeful, and my conscious and subconscious is thinking of that would be magical. That would be heaven on earth, but not being too worried about it or how to do it. It's more of a feeling, and then improving on the past, which I still want to admit the past, and how can I learn from what I went through before? That allows me to be more present. So to me, magic is, it's spirit, it's joy, it's love, as I said, presence. And it is amazing when I am at a lower frequency. David Hawkins in Letting Go talks about the different levels of consciousness, and that was a big eye opener for me. And as you said, it's okay to acknowledge and experience all the emotions, and then we automatically go up to what I call the love frequency. It's a 500 out of 1,000. And that's when I'm kind of above the fray. And usually my anger, fear, or frustration is below. And it's okay to be there, but then to keep coming back. So long-winded, magic is presence, it's wonder, it's curiosity, it's love, it's being alive.
And it's being like, the gift is today.
Yes.
Today is the gift.
Thank you.
We can't redo yesterday. We can't do yesterday, and tomorrow we don't know what it holds. And so to entirely savor today is a gift. And think about it.
I am right now. Thank you for that.
The past tries to steal it from us, and the worry of the future tries to rob it from us. And so to really acknowledge that today is the gift, hug your loved ones, enjoy the conversations you have with people. And I think it sounds like you have a magical perspective when you get into that zone, right? And talk to us about how that impacts the word vision. My faith is important to me, and the Bible says that where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint. And so we've covered like the magic, and I could see how you could just, be contemplative about your perspective in life when you're in this moment of presence. But tell us about how that transforms into a vision, because where I'm heading is, to some degree, I think this is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Totally
Right?
agree.
Is that if you see that this positive thing is going to happen, then your subconscious kicks in and says, well, what steps does it take to get there?
Yeah, so I appreciate that. It's, I mean, I am, called a visionary entrepreneur, and I didn't know what that meant. And when, that was brought to me, I said, okay, that's fine. And I was, taught that there is a place for me in business. I like business. Business helps me to provide value, helps me to provide for my kids, and it gives me some freedom. And so as a business owner or an entrepreneur, to have vision of what could it be like? And not all my visions are true, but it's even deeper. It's what's the emotion and feeling behind that vision. So if I sell you a package and okay, great, that's financial, but then I get to serve you and then you're grateful and happy. So I coach a lot of visionary entrepreneurs, and we don't fit in what I call kind of a 3D world, which is if I work hard and work a lot of hours, I'm going to get a return. We've gone to, I think it's more of a 5D world. And so it is our minds, our heart, and our spirit that is a big part of our value. So I work with entrepreneurs on vision to, again, that gives me hope. It gives me ideas. It's an inspiration. Is it from my head, my heart, from my dad who passed away? Is it from God? I kind of don't, and I don't care. I mean, to me, it is God. And yet, so yeah, exactly. And then what I'm realizing, though, it's not just helping the visionary entrepreneurs. It's my daughter who wanted to be a teacher and then discovered robotics. And so it was mechanical engineering. And so she started to go that at the University of Michigan. And 3 years in, she's like, I don't think this is who I am. My vision for me is I want to help kids. I want to bring joy to kids. I want to help kids know they matter. So she called us last year and said, I'm switching from engineering to education. And I was like, and so literally in my head, I was like, well, just suffer through a couple more years of school and suffer through 5 or 10 years of business. And then you can do whatever you want and be whoever you want. And I was looking at my book, and my daughter can see right through me. And so I just took a deep breath, and I'm like, if it makes you happy, if that's your vision for who you are, right, that's amazing. And so she avoided a midlife crisis at 20 years old.
Right.
And my son is 17, intelligent. He teaches me a lot about magic, and he's a D1 player he will be in college. And he's like, I want to go somewhere warm and fun. I'm like, well, that's cool. So we started to explore down south, and I'm like, cool, we're going to go.
Come to LSU.
Right, exactly. I mean, we were there last summer. And then as he did that, a Princeton comes out of the woodwork, and he's like, well, that's not warm and fun, but maybe that matters most. And, what if I go and get this amazing education, and I can probably play sooner? And so he's going to go there in a couple of weeks. So we'll see where he's going to end up. But it's helping him to figure out what matters most. And he's having vision for his life. So again, in the past, often I lived too much in the future and didn't appreciate the present. So that's still a lesson for me. But I just think in today's world, the media and government and the fear is stifling our vision. And it's going to be a winter of despair and death. Okay, well, that's kind of exciting. Yeah. Or is it, let's be aware of what's going on and let's live. I mean, to me, that's the vibration and life and energy. And as I hear you say, hey, I think I'm going to go do this, or I can do that, or we can do this together, I get excited, and I'm going to help you to do that, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. What sport is your son going to play?
Baseball.
Nice. What position?
Yeah. He had 3 no-hitters as a pitcher last year in high school. He's always been our ace. He doesn't know if he wants to pitch in college. He's an amazing third baseman, but actually because he's been working his ass off, and again, he said D1, and they said, you got to get your 60-yard dash below 7, and he was 7.4. In the last 4 months, he's gone from 7.4 to 6.7. So now then people are like, well, what about outfield? And he's like, I'll play anywhere, man. I want to play the field and I want to hit. So anywhere, basically, other than probably catcher.
Well, good for him. And, athletes have to have vision. It's like the whole free throw analogy of you have to see it go in before it'll actually go in. And that's, I think, a microcosm of life, right? Right. I think sometimes too, when people sometimes the reason people don't want to cast a vision is for a chance that it may fail, especially now in the social media public eye or quasi public eye. But, I often think about, again, from the Bible, it says God's word is a lamp unto our feet. And you think about, lamp doesn't give you 10 years worth of a lighted path. it gives you the next couple steps.
Right.
And so much I think of life's pathway is meandering, and it's good to have this is a direction we're going to go, but the steps to get there are probably going to be iterative, and you have to maintain a long-term vision, but have a nimble sort of short-term, day-to-day conquering challenges, right?
Right. And I think us visionaries, that it's becoming a real word, and it's kind of cool. We're on, I think, kind of the forefront with the Visionary Forum and the Visionary Summit, our organizations and events that we do. And so we're the ones who are getting excited about the future. And in the past, I think a lot of our brilliance was the excitement of that vision, but then also the depths and despair of, oh, how are we going to make payroll? And so we're very dramatic as visionaries. And so to me, the opportunity for us visionary adult entrepreneurs is to walk the talk that it's okay to have vision and it's okay to be hopeful. Even I caught myself the other day and I was like, I don't want to get my hopes up. I'm like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
So for us entrepreneurs, visionaries, is to say, hey, you know what? It may not succeed how I thought, or it may not be perceived as success. And so we just finished our 4th Visionary Summit retreat. And that was a vision I had for me of community and helping visionaries to act like they matter and be who they are. And so we just finished the first one that was actually profitable, that half of the people signed up for the next one. And so literally people are like, you've made it. And I've had these financial people who are like, this isn't a real business. And I'm like, I kind of don't care. And I disagree. And we're proving that it is because of that vision and that hope and sharing. And it's been an amazing ride.
Well, I'm really proud of you because, you probably could have, I don't know what it was like for you getting to being very successful. It was probably like most everybody else, where it's, am I going to make it? I don't want to fail, etc.
Right.
But you were fortunate enough to, once you've succeeded greatly, then say, well, what does that mean? It doesn't mean quite what I thought it does, but how can I parlay this into impact and purpose and meaning for other people? But for those people that think, well, it sounds a little bit like the only people that say money doesn't matter are the people that have a lot of it.
Right.
Because it's easy to say, oh, material things don't matter if you can afford them all, right? But
right.
Sometimes I think the people that have the most material things cannot see the vision or cannot see the meaning and the purpose in relationships and being present and et cetera. I joke with a buddy of mine, anytime we're around extremely wealthy people, we're only talking about their yachts or their airplanes, right, or where, you can't get down to the level of heart.
Yeah, and it's interesting because someone a while ago at a neighborhood block party said, well, it must be nice. And I said, what's that? He said, well, to have made it. I'm like, well, what has made it? He's like, well, you're successful and you've achieved all these things. I'm like, how do you know that? And he's like, well, your attitude. And I said, well, why can't you do it? He's like, well, I don't know if I can afford it, and I've got some debt. And at that point I said, so how much debt do you have? And he's like, I don't know, probably 50, 60 grand. I'm like, I'm at 750 grand of debt. And so, but it is a mindset. I mean, it's a mindset and reality. And sometimes I've avoided the reality on cash. But to me, it's to shift the mindset and again, my book is Unscatter the Chatter, which is unscattering the chatter coming from outside, from media, government, friends, parents, kids, whatever it might be. Most of it is not positive. And then mainly the chatter in here, which is, am I ever going to make it? And neither is usually that positive. And so we talk about mindset is to shift, first of all, to be a part of that conversation in our heads, to realize it's there, and then to ultimately start to shift it from am I to I am. Mm-hmm. So in my head, and I'm around a lot of successful people, and I was in the past comparing myself to say, look at his house, and I know what his bank account is, and I am not that. And so am I going to be successful? Am I ever going to make it? And this is when I was acting like I had already made it, and so for me to shift it to the meaning behind success. And, and that's a great marriage, great kids, freedom. Mm-hmm. I have a ton of freedom. I may or may not have as much money as you have, or security perceptually. And yet that's been a shift for my wife and I too. It's like, are we going to run on money? Is this a bad investment too? It's our purpose, it's our passion, and as we live it, and it's I am successful. So when I shift that conversation in my head, so am I a successful dad, and my daughter does something and I get mad? Well, in my head, it's I'm a great dad. So then all of a sudden I shift differently to, I'm a great visionary, I'm a great father, I'm a great husband. Now, not everything I do represents that, but then I recognize it more often. And so that is a big shift for me in the mindset, is the I am statement, which I believe is biblical. And when I say it and feel it, it just is.
Well, and it's kind of like, am I going to make the free throw? Instead of that, I am going to make the free throw.
Right.
On a day by day basis.
I'm a great player, right? Yeah. And I'm a great person, and yeah, right, exactly.
Well, and one of my favorite books is called The True Measure of a Man. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And one of the things I talk about is, and there's another one called, I think, Adam's Origin or something. But, the Jewish culture has a great transition of boyhood to manhood, right? And we don't have that in the Western culture. And so there's a de facto one that what it means to be a man in America, from age 12 to 20 is, are you good at sports? Right. And from age, 15 to 40, it's how many women can you get? And after age 20, it's how much money do you make? And that's why our culture idolizes professional athletes, is because they have all three. Right. When really the things that truly matter, like we're talking about right here, you know what? They're not real measurable. Right. They don't have a fancy emblem on the side of a car or a decimal point in your bank account. But the happiness meter, if there was such a thing, is the relationships that you have and the peace that you have, and can you sleep at night? I mean, if those things were quantifiable, that is what wealth or riches are, And I think there's this delusion that other things can provide that. Now, granted, there is a certain level that you have to make in order to cover the natural basic things in life, right? But over that does not give you the fulfillment and joy. Right.
Yep. Yeah, and I think one of the examples of that is the expression "as soon as." So when I hear myself think that or say that, okay, then I'm not being present. Right. So as soon as I sell my business, as soon as I land this account, it's like, well, then I'm putting out to the universe that I'm not there. So to put it out that I am right now, right here, I am successful. And if it matters most, I take action on those things or be those things today, not waiting for something outside of me to happen.
Mm-hmm. If then, you get rid of the if then mindset.
Exactly. Right.
Live in the now instead of the if then.
Yep. Exactly.
So what does the next 10 years look like for Coach Bob? I'm asking a visionary what his vision for his future is.
Well, it's interesting because I mentioned the vision board earlier, and I feel like I achieved the vision board I did about 10 years ago, and that was my wife and I standing at the top of the mountain and saying, woohoo, the love and the magic are back, and my kids saying, we knew you changed the world. And so at my book signing, I had that vision board out, and I said, wow, we've kind of achieved that. And oh, by the way, I still have half of my life left. And so for me, it's creating and experiencing love, creating and experiencing joy, creating and experiencing freedom, and being that for myself and with my wife, and then creating communities of the same thing and supporting each other. And to me, we've gone from the industrial age, agricultural age, to industrial, to technology, internet, to something. And we've hit the ceiling of complexity. And whenever we do that, there is anger, fear, and frustration. And to me, we're just going into what I call the wisdom age. Other people call it age of understanding, different things. And so when I say the wisdom age, a lot of people are like, it doesn't seem like we're that wise. Well, but when I have a safe space for you and you have a safe space for me, and I can voice it and get it outside of my head, it is real wisdom, and we're sharing experience. So the next 10 years is about not turning the crank. I still rush too much and I'm kind of anxious. And so literally today and yesterday, and it's like I don't have to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. And someone asked me my age the other day, and I said 58, and my wife said, you're 59. I'm like, no, I'm not. She's like, okay, when were you born? And I'm like, I'm going to be 60. And I had a couple seconds of like, and then it was actually very prophetic that I did a meditation and slowing down using the tools that we created. I was like, I'm so happy where I am at 60,
Mm-hmm.
and I still have half my life left. And it literally was I don't have to work my ass off anymore.
Right.
I've been working my butt off on being a great parent and business. And so literally in this last week, putting it out to the world on this visionary forum, this community we've created, I call it the iMatter revolution. And that is helping people to realize that they matter, act like they matter, to be who they are, and to be a walking talk of it, not just talking about it. So what that means is freedom to follow my son playing baseball, follow my daughter wherever she's going, hiking as a family, and just loving every minute. So it's less about goals for me, and about living and being right now.
In the present, be present in the moment.
Right, exactly.
Well,
And then, I'm sorry, one more thing. You're a doctor. A few of my friends are doctors, and people are like, you don't seem like you're 60. And that to me, I mean, I take care of myself, but to me, it is about healthy living and really about that energy and about joy, love, and freedom. And that to me is a big part of health and that mindset. So to answer that.
Well, no, I think it's true. It's an overflow, and it starts with your mindset. I think your soul or your consciousness, for me, and it sounds like for you too, it's based in faith.
Yep.
And then I think it does give an energy that probably goes out 6 to 20 feet. You can tell when someone walks in a room what kind of energy they have, and when people suck the energy out of the room, then I'm not around them for very long.
And try to control it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But one of the things you mentioned a couple of times is the conversations we have in our head, and I'll talk to myself sometimes. Sometimes my wife will say, "Who are you talking to?" I'm like, "Castleman." That's my middle name. Talking to myself. And I heard a quote recently. I forget who said it, but it says, "More joy is lost in imagination than in reality." And I think worry, because vision is about the future, right?
Yep.
And worry and anxiety is us imagining everything that could go wrong with the vision for the future. And
right.
So it's not, because people that are anxious and worried, they also have vision. It's just a negative version of what could happen. And so I think the mindset of enjoying now and how that can parlay into a positive where are we going future, and that can just be a vector, like which direction are we heading.
Absolutely, totally agree. And that's the old adage of be, do, have, and that's more of an Eastern philosophy is how I've heard it. And here in the West, it's more have, do, be. As soon as I have time, as soon as I have money, then I'm going to do the things I'm great at, and then I'm going to be present, be in love. And so it's helping people to get back to, and for myself, to being. And when my wife and I first really experienced that, we were living out in Boulder, we're like, oh, this is easy. And I literally heard, oh, you think so? And I'm like, uh-oh. And so then throw in some cash issues and kids and some health issues and relationship issues. And yet at the end of the day, I had a hard time being when I'm stressed. So a process that we've created is think, do, be, do, have, or think, act, be, do, have. And so I can always think. So when I take time to, and I use some of the tools we've created in our book, and it's just basically to ask myself questions, elevate my mind, and then elevate my energy. And then I start to act on the things that matter most. Then I go to being. Yeah. So that's been our process is think, act, be, do, have.
Well, I'll tell you, I have a much simpler version, and I haven't read your books. Maybe I'll adopt it. But, I had a coach in college, and I remember I couldn't decide, do I want to go to seminary or medical school? And he was a coach, but he was also a preacher. And so he did both. And he said, Craig, I got to tell you, the call of God on your life does not change based on what you choose to do for a living.
Right.
And we each have a certain skill set or value to contribute to those we love, our community around us, maybe your church, or whatever. And unless we're doing those things, we're probably not fulfilled, right? And so, but then you got to say you're at a dinner party or a function. What's a common question? Hey, coach, how are you? What do you do?
Right.
And so there's so much emphasis on, in our society, the default is what you do determines who you are. And what I think the way it should be is that who you are should determine what you do. And we spend so much time focusing on, especially on children, on what are you going to do? What are you going to do? As if that is going to be who you are. And what we need to do, and what I try to do with my own, is focus on who you are.
Yep.
What are your values? What is your character? And out of that is going to be innumerable options of what to do. But
Yep.
who you are should define and determine what you do, and not vice versa.
Totally agree. Yeah, and that's again with our kids. It's not, I'm proud of you for that accomplishment. It's I am proud of you, but you should be proud of yourself.
Right.
Because for who you are, and it's awesome because yes, as parents, I'm like, look at what we did with our kids, but they're teaching us, and they're both who they are now, and they're kind of calling us out at times.
Well, I tell you what's been a little difficult, but I love parenting. It's a journey. There's no handbook.
Right.
I used to start out, and my favorite time in life is dinner around the dinner table. And as your kids get older, that's much more difficult, right?
Yeah.
But it used to start out like, "How's your day?" "Good, good, good. We're done." So I started taking it to the next level. It's like, we're going to go around the room at the dinner table, and just give us your highs and lows. What was the best?
Yep.
It's okay to have low, by the way. We don't expect to be Pollyanna here. And like, oh, how did that make you feel? And it's the fourth or fifth question deep that their heart explodes, right? Yep. Another way to do it is, okay, on a scale of, and I'll do mine too. I had a bad day or whatever. On a scale of 1 to 10, using 2 decimal points, how was your day today? What does a 7.28 look like? What does a 5.39 look like? And it's the subsequent digging or peeling back of the onion that they get to learn how to express what those feelings are that they had from what happened to them that day, right?
Right. Now, I believe our egos often try to protect our getting to our heart so we don't get hurt. And so as you're talking about that, it is a safe space to hear ourselves think and get it out of our heads. Because if it stays in my head, it isn't always positive. But then when I share those anger, fears, or frustrations, it's like, okay, maybe it's not that bad, or people still love me regardless of that. And so that's huge. My daughter literally walks around campus at University of Michigan, and she and a few fellow students, they have this big black box on a dolly, and at the top it'll say, "What brought you joy today?" Wow. And people come and just write up there, and people stop for a second. And it's like, wow, is that amazing? She's not evangelizing anything. She's like, what brought you joy? And let's talk about it. So it's been amazing.
Coach Bob, thanks for being on today. Under the Knife, where we dissect life, sometimes politics, religion, faith, meaning, purpose. And thanks for your book. I look forward to getting into your book. Tell us where we can find your book and where people can follow you.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So if you go to iMatter.com, you can order the book. It's also on and on the normal sources, and in Audible is the Audible version. And so iMatter.com is where you can get other resources. You can do a life ladder assessment. We talk about the life ladder, and we love to create the dialogue and grow the iMatter revolution. So I really appreciate you and your time, and I have a feeling we will meet in person.
I look forward to it. And my takeaway from this is, this would not be something you read the book and now you made it. This is the beginning of a journey that will be iterative and ongoing.
Absolutely. Well, great. Well, I appreciate you, and thanks for our time together.
Thanks, Coach. God bless. Thank you for joining us today, and a big thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in to this surgical exploration of politics, healthcare, and life. I've been your host, Dr. Craig Green. Remember to stay informed, stay sharp, and join us next time to see which of life's topics we'll dissect under the knife.